it was the one where I'm selling Scoop Soldiers, I think.
And the sweatpants.
And I'm in black. They're not sweatpants, but they're running workout pants. Yes. Joggers. That's exactly what they're called. Yeah. They're joggers. I'm in joggers. And actually, I think I was wearing this black shirt. Now that I think about it, maybe that should have been a sign not to wear it if I actually cared. But no, I look like you can see my perfect outline of my dad bod. That's maybe the most respectful way to put it.
I'm not really listening. I'm just so happy that I started hitting record.
I figured. What's going on, everybody? Happy day. EJ McCoy here with one of my favorite colleagues, Michayla Sims, the COO of Scoop Soldiers. For those of us that maybe don't know, COO, tell us, Michayla, what does that stand for? And what do you do?
I think that's a very loaded question. Officially, I don't really like titles, but Chief Operating Officer. But I think it's more, you do all the things. You're subject to all the things. It's not just one thing that you're doing. You have your hands in everything. We're turning poop into gold, so we're literally touching it all.
So you say touching it all. You say we are touching it all. You mean you and who? Because you're the COO, so you're touching it all, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a team. We have our command center team that helps with all of our franchisees, all clients. They do all client-facing phone calls, emails, text messages on a day-to-day. So literally talking to everybody nationwide, 15,000 clients. Working closely with Heather Phillips, who helps with our franchisees. And then Kendra, our newest member of the team as well.
Yeah, I have to correct you on some of that, though. And welcome, Kendra. But I have to correct you on some of that. It's over 15,000.
Over 15,000, closer to 16.
And
sorry about
counting.
That. Yeah, always counting.
Always.
I mean, literally, as we speak, I know the sales team is converting.
Which, by the way, I have a surprise for you on that, and I want to talk to you about it in just a second. But before that, we got ahead. We got too far ahead of ourselves here. Yeah. We are on the Find Your Gold podcast.
Exactly.
And I am really ADD, so that's part of this podcast. And I have been warning you for weeks since we scheduled this.
Yeah.
About how I'm going to razz you. I'm going to harass you a little bit. We want it to be fun. And the whole purpose in that is to, get it relaxed a little bit. I mean, you seem more nervous. You be so nervous with all these lights in your face.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody wouldn't be. It's not intimidating at all, right?
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You have to do it now for practice for your future.
For my future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've talked
with
about
your
this
future,
before.
you can't avoid this.
I know.
And the role of
technology,
the role of an executive, the role of an entrepreneur, the role of anybody in business, I believe, especially at a higher level, needs to be in front of these dang lights. I don't like it either.
Yeah. It's not natural.
It's not natural at all.
Not at all. But
unless you a little sociopathic.
Yeah.
And I am a little bit, so maybe that's why it's more natural for me. But no, it's not natural at all. I agree. Not at all.
I mean, you and I have talked about it before. I had a mentor who used to tell me growth comes from uncomfortable places.
Exactly right.
So here we are. We're sitting very uncomfortably, ready to rock.
Again, you don't look uncomfortable. You seem perfectly natural.
Yeah, it's called a game face.
Your hair looks nice.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Did it just for the podcast.
Why are you laughing so hard? I was giving you a good compliment.
Because it is. It's truly done for the podcast.
I know. That's why I said it. You knew I was going to razz you about that one because I've already been razzing you about it. For the record, though, you've got to get that. This is one of my goals. I'm going to make you get on camera so much for productive reasons, too. This is just a side reason that you don't have time to get your hair done before you're on camera.
Listen, no, this is why we schedule things ahead. My type A self can't handle, be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. for a podcast. I will decline it. 100% I will decline
it. At 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
What about 9:30?
Call it 11:30 and we'll be good.
Well, we did this one at 9:30.
Perfect.
Granted, with Jeremy and Ben, we started
with 3-day notice, though.
With 3-day notice? Yeah, that's true. You had more than 3 days notice.
It was like a week. Yeah. And when you count travel, being gone for 4 days?
Yeah. Okay, so actually, that's what I want to get back to. So, and you're right. It was only 1 week. You had 1 week notice. Yep. But
true EJ style.
Absolutely true my style. But also, you, as always, rise to the occasion. You didn't tell me you were uncomfortable. You didn't huff and puff. Well, you huffed and puffed a little when you sat down. But up until that point, you didn't huff and puff. You just said, let's do it. Like you said, growth comes from uncomfortable places. But let's talk. So you traveled.
Yeah.
So you traveled for the Teepig Tour. It's not necessarily going back to what does the COO do. It's not necessarily what you do on a regular basis, but you've traveled a little on the Teepig Tour last year, and we're just getting started in what I call season 2. Yeah. And you traveled here. Tell us about that. Tell us where you went. Tell us what you experienced. The good, the bad, the ugly.
So we went to Atlanta. It was my husband and I. We went to support Deegan and Holtz out in Atlanta, one of our franchisees. We went to the Dogwood Festival. They've been hosting it for almost 90 years. This was the 89th year.
That is cool.
It's a really long-standing event that they host within the community. Over 25,000 people in attendance, several vendors, lots of artists. It was really interesting to see some of the people bringing big semi-trucks of pieces of art that they had brought in. I mean,
semi-trucks?
Yes, large cement pieces that are taller than you. It was pretty insane.
These were for sale.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the tune of some of them $13,000 when you flip the price tag.
What was the lower price points?
All we saw was the big ticket items.
Okay.
We stayed in our booth. We followed directions real well.
I never said that. Did Josh say that? Josh asked.
You got to be in your booth, right? Like you got to work it. That's part of it.
So you got there. You and Jeff went there. Now, how did we get the stuff there? That's right. The bus stopped and dropped it all off for us.
Thank you, Brian and Edwin.
Yeah, that was cool.
Good. Just was that part for us for sure. So they came through. They dropped everything off to Brandon, their market leader. He and Eric Deegan set it all up the day before, like got it all tarped up and wrapped up because lo and behold.
Okay, so they set it up. Franchisee there in Atlanta.
They took it all to the location.
Their team. They got it to the location.
Yeah.
Brian Jones and Edwin drove the bus. They were heading to Florida for the Orlando event that was also happening.
Right.
So they made a pit stop in Atlanta, hooked up with Eric Deegan, franchisee, got them this stuff, the tent and some of the bigger items that are hard to travel with, hard to ship.
Absolutely.
And then went on their way to Orlando from Dallas. And then you guys flew in, tent was set up, you and Jeff, and you guys helped franchisees run this event.
So we could have set it up. We had it all dropped. As it would be in reality, there was a big thunderstorm that came in the night that we flew in. So Eric wrapped it all, tarped it all, had bungee straps around it, had the table on top.
It was all good though?
It was a supply sandwich.
Did you didn't get any footage of that? We should have gotten footage of that.
I have footage. Listen, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm still sometimes in the mindset of the original. And this isn't any issue, but this is on my own, on me. But originally I was picturing the Teepig Tour chat to be where we put a lot of content. And my brain still has not made the transition to the DJI content versus what we put on the Teepig. So you had the DJI and we're actually getting footage of all this.
Which was new and different because you're right. I'm used to carrying a cell phone around, not like a big case that looks like a money case with all of this equipment in it. So that in and of itself is interesting to travel with. Every airport's different, you know.
So we need to make sure we talk about today in our TPIG meeting how we're going to weave in Jeremy's footage from Orlando this weekend,
right?
Taking care and working with the franchisee there, and you and Jeff in Atlanta in that content. How we're going to get that all into an episode, or is it going to be 2 episodes? I don't know. Maybe if you really, because Jeremy, I know, did enough. He can get 1 episode out of what he did in Orlando.
Right.
I don't know if you feel that confident in your camera skills, but as the COO, you're basically a professional camera person too. So
yeah, I mean, I think
that's what the COO, the COO does, like you said, does it for
that's it all. Yeah.
So basically, what a COO does at this company with me, I have basically two official COOs, one at Chorbie, one at Scoop Soldiers. And basically, they're the people I call. I don't call them often. It's more so wait till the meeting to yell at them, but I call or wait in their weekly meeting.
Let me be clear.
And I let them, they help shift the gear that, I said, what am I saying? My goodness. They help run all the day-to-day, but execute on the future as well. It's not just general management of the day-to-day. It's executing on the vision long-term and really thinking and planning long-term, very much so like the business owner themselves or like the CEO. Another way to easily put it is you're executing on the vision of the CEO. at the highest level.
Absolutely. We vision cast regularly.
Yeah.
So
there's a really good article out there, actually. I don't know if I've ever directed this to you. In fact, it's kind of forgotten, so I don't think I have. We need to make note of this. There's a really good article out there from Harvard Business Review. It's a little old. I think it's 20 years old, almost 20 years old now. I think it was 2006, 2007. But it is a really good article on what makes a COO. And not all organizations have COOs. But anyway, it's a great article. We need to make sure we look that we get back.
Got it.
It's a Harvard Business Review article that you can pretty easily, I think, find online by Googling COO job description or COO this or that. It's not a job description. It's the whole article, whole publication, but it's good. Anyway, you've been COO for 6 months. Tell me about that experience. What's it like?
What's it like? Behind the curtain, huh? It's been interesting. I mean, my journey was in sales prior to this, helping grow and develop Chorbie first, and then grow into Scoop Soldiers and evolving with that, learning the business. When I think you're very simple-minded when you come into an organization like this, because it's pet waste removal. It's very simple, but there's a lot of complexity behind the scenes to make what we do work on a day-to-day basis. We're in several states. We have several people we're working with, several different levels of leadership, technicians, several vehicles. I mean, it's a very well-oiled machine, but there's a lot of SOPs along the way that we've had to
It's a very well-oiled machine on one hand, and on the other hand, it is endless areas of potential improvement.
Exactly, which is where the SOPs come into play. So I think that's your very big picture and very like, hey, here's what we need to do noon yesterday. And it's like, love it. Here's how we get there. And here's what we need to put in place to get there.
Would you say that it's Josh and I both are really good at pointing out the problems, but we need assistance, such as a COO and a team, to actually do something about those problems.
Great at poking holes. I'll give you that all day long. But I think that's what's necessary, right? You're not going to grow unless you're identifying some of those pieces and building upon it, educating our teams on it, whether that be local teams, whether that be internal command center, whether that be our franchisees. I think there's a lot of elements that, you can poke holes at. And if we're not doing that, we're not one of the front runners either. So we've got to keep that at the very front of our minds.
Yeah. Let's talk about entrepreneurship and what that means to you and some of your experience in entrepreneurship. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Tell me about what entrepreneurship means to you and your endeavors in entrepreneurship, both alongside me and before that, and what you see for the future.
Yeah. So I think entrepreneurship to me is just, finding a vision, finding something that you love and that you enjoy, you're able to expand on along the way. You're able to provide value to people. I think that's a big thing. For me, especially, working alongside you, one of the things that I enjoy is the fact that, yes, we have the day-to-day of what we do, but then there's the give back aspect, regardless of what organization you're with, whether it's Scoop Soldiers and Valor Service Dogs or some of the local animal shelters that we work with. I think that helps ignite the passion and kind of fuel the motivation. And I think that's a neat thing with entrepreneurship. One of my favorite things is we don't have a lot of red tape, so it's not subject to just one. It's not stopped at Valor Service Dogs. You can get into your local markets and you can spread awareness, and you can partner with ASPCA, you can partner with local animal shelters. And that's something that's very different from other organizations. They tend to be closed-minded with, this is it. We have our normal contribution. It's 10%, like clockwork. It shows on the P&L, and you're like, yeah, but we could do so much more. So I think that's kind of a neat piece with entrepreneurship, and especially being able to work with organizations with you and Josh, is that you guys aren't closed-minded to things like that. If we bring things to you, for example, our SAM team, we have a lot of members of our SAM team who are affected by autism. They have children who are autistic at their home, and they're balancing that work-life balance, that work-life harmony, caring for their kiddos, and we're still able to tap into that and show them that we care on an individual level, even in that regard too.
Absolutely.
So
what's the SAM
kind of neat. So our SAM team is our Scoop account managers. They're the team that really makes the wheels roll on a day-to-day basis.
They're the command center.
Yeah, they're the
corporate. And so,
absolutely.
So to elaborate on that, our command center is our corporate run operation.
Right.
Dozen people estimating. I forget. I literally just read it this morning on the payroll. I think it was a dozen people right out, and counting because we're hiring.
Right.
And so a dozen people or so that are running the corporate operations. And what that means in our franchise system, this isn't the case for all franchising, but we handle all the administrative support for our franchisees.
Absolutely.
Our franchisees don't have any client support needs. We handle that. Now, each franchisee has ownership of their clients. Each franchisee can call their clients at will. They can call their leads at will. We've got some work to do on technology with that, but we want that for sure. So we want every franchisee to have ownership, and turnover and canceled clients has also been a huge impact when the franchisee has ownership in that. But the franchisee also has this command center, this level of support. People that have done tens of millions of dollars in revenue in client care, and by no means has it been a straight up journey in our client care development. As we grew by client count a lot, and revenue growth a lot faster than we were able to put systems and processes in place in our command center. But that command center has grown by 5-fold in the last 5 years. You've had a huge part in that. Especially the last 2 years, 3 years. And that's a huge service we provide to our franchisees that I don't think people usually realize, especially not people within the pet waste industry that oftentimes look upon our royalties as being somehow doing something wrong in some way.
Sure.
I don't think that the people that do that realize how much support a proper franchise system gives. Again, circling back to you being in Atlanta this weekend, doing these events, our franchisees there probably could not have done an event like that without the franchisor in their particular case. Some franchisees are different, but with the fact that they've got their full-time jobs and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
So same with Orlando. Franchisee, the owners I don't think were there. They had their general manager there. They run Orlando, Tampa, and Collin County here in Dallas, in the Dallas suburbs, and they had their general manager there working with our team, and Kendra was there, of course, and we got some podcasts done. We got footage for the Teepig Tour.
Yeah, they did a really good job this weekend for sure.
So I love it. And what I'm most proud of when I see those pictures come through in the Teepig takeover chat throughout the weekend and whatnot, I don't really know what to say. So a lot of times I don't know exactly what to say, but I love seeing it. And I love seeing how our team is able to take that on, whether it's myself being able to be removed from it, and as a business person, and part of my entrepreneurial journey is wanting that freedom, but also wanting to still be a part of something, and being able to have a team that goes out and does these events.
Right.
And then, of course, with Josh's recent diagnosis, that was definitely a bit of a slap in the face.
A lot.
But he was obviously supposed to be he was the one supposed to be in Atlanta originally. And so, but watching you guys in the team take that on is awesome.
Yeah, I think we do have a really diverse team. And I think one thing that I find joy in is that no matter where we're at, what location, who we're with, we find joy in the journey. We're able to bring a fun and playful nature. You can't be too serious. It's waste removal.
There is one thing we do pretty decently. And I think that comes from Josh. And Josh influenced me tremendously throughout our relationship to kind of to take that on as well. But we don't take ourselves all that seriously.
No, you can't.
And you can't, especially, I think that having a lighthearted spirit about you, I'm not naturally like that. I'm not claiming to be, but as best as you can in most scenario, it very much so goes along.
Well, and at events and things like that, it makes you approachable. You don't want to be standoffish, arms closed off, not making eye contact with people. You want to be playful in nature and you want to have a happy, cheerful disposition. So
speaking of happy, cheerful dispositions, Jeff Sims.
At the end of the hour.
Did he have fun? Be honest.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Did he have fun? When y'all were getting back on the plane, was he like, oh, we can do this again? Or was he like, don't make me do this again?
No, you know what? I think one of the best things about my husband is he always finds the shiny side of the coin. He's very playful in nature, even when I can be a little bit of a stick in the mud and, get comments like, you control too much of this. Like, he just brings that edge and that air. So he had a lot of fun with it, with the kids, tossing out poop emojis to them, tossing them tennis balls and making them catch it when they're getting it, holding up the poop emoji. We'll scoop your poop. He doesn't take it too serious.
How much footage did we get of any? Did we get footage?
Yeah, absolutely. We did. Yeah. It was a really good time.
How much footage were you in front of the camera? Your hair, you didn't get your hair done before that. I'm just so curious.
No, but I did put the poop emoji costume on. So we got a little bit of that.
And that was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time. There were people who stopped, and I think there's something to that. Maybe we either charge for a photo or
did people want
they wanted pictures of the poop
put
it on social.
We need to collect emails, names and emails.
Yeah,
We've got to see, this is something, was it you I was talking to about this? Who was I talking to about this? I forget who I was talking to about this. Anyway, but it was Sunday or Monday. It might have been Josh. We've got to take into account all of the different assets of doing the events. If you're only looking for clients, these events are never gonna, like 1 out of 5 are gonna be
right. There's so many angles.
There's just, but you've got to come up and strategically work through the different assets. You've got, and off the top of my head, I'm not even that creative at this, but off the top of my head, obviously the golden one is get a client.
Right.
But then another one that's right behind that is get a lead.
Absolutely.
Okay. But then after that, get their name and phone number and email, especially if they're a dog owner, but frankly, even if they're not, but especially if they're a dog owner, get that information.
Absolutely.
For a picture or something. I don't know, but there could be other things, but those 3 things, we've got to go into these events saying, we have this way, this plan to get this many clients, this plan to get this many more leads, and this plan to get this many.
Right. Well, we talk about business contacts too, even the people in the booth next to you, like syncing up with them.
Exactly. That's the 4th one. Exactly right. So that's the 4th.
Right.
Franchise dev, franchise leads.
Absolutely.
Like Kendra got.
Absolutely.
That's a 5th. So there's 5 right there. Makes sense.
Lots of areas of opportunity.
So hopefully you're taking.
And I think that's the good thing about having a diverse team who goes to different events. Everybody has different takeaways. Everyone has different strengths. So you're able to take the best of all of that, put it together, develop the processes so that you can get all those 5 touch points. So that's the important part of it.
That's part of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And of course, another key piece in all that is getting the media. That's another asset piece. If you didn't have the media, and then there's other 5 things, but you add the media onto that, the media gives it a more theoretical, and maybe more, this is more dramatic, but an infinite value because it's going on to the internet.
Exactly.
Forever, just like this podcast.
Great. We'll plug that like 3 more times. Don't worry. It's going to be fine.
Okay. So I haven't even gotten to well, hold on. No, before I get to that, I've actually been saving something for you for about a week and a half for this podcast to then strategize about.
My face may need
but
delivery.
Before that,
so
maybe you might actually get excited.
I'll say it all.
But before that, entrepreneurship. I've kept talking, got my ADD going, and I didn't let you finish the other piece. Entrepreneurship. You told me what you'd see it as. Tell me about past, present, future for you.
Yeah. So past, my husband and I did own a plumbing company together. I think we got our feet wet. We were parents very young. We didn't have the business savvy background of our parents. We kind of learned it on our own. My husband is a master plumber, so we got him into running his own business. We partnered together for a period of time too. So that was our first dabble into entrepreneurship ourselves. We always knew that we have the skill sets, we have the people skills, we can talk to people. We know enough to, my favorite phrase, we know enough to be dangerous when it comes to business and P&Ls and, networking with others. And so we figured, hey, let's give this a shot. Let's give it a go. I think we got too big for our britches too fast. That was one of our takeaways. We worked with a lot of commercial properties and clients, and it's very different than residential. Residential is, pay the same day,
Yeah.
you know, move on. Commercial applications, it's 30, 60, 90-day payouts, and loosely those terms are followed if they're followed at all.
Yep.
And you know, we learned lessons the hard way. So we did.
Absolutely.
We closed our business and partnered together with Chorbie for a period of time, and that's been our journey.
Awesome. And I say awesome. Sometimes it's not awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it freaking sucks.
Oh yeah. Oh, blood, sweat, and tears.
I mean,
for sure.
I can literally name at least 3 brands off the top of my head that I have started and failed at
Right.
least. I was just talking to one of my mentors and somebody I respect more than almost anybody, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And we were actually talking about this at dinner, and he was even talking about, because I was actually talking about selling, like not talking about selling, but like saying, like, I don't understand all these entrepreneurs that want to make these quote unquote exits.
Right.
I'm unconvinced that I could do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really considered a humble person,
Sure.
but I am unconvinced that I could, even though you could say I've done it 3-ish times, I'm not 100% convinced I could go and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I'm not going to try.
Right. Right. Well, and I think
But
failure is a part of the process.
I've seen the failure just as much as the success.
Mhm.
And it is a really, really hard game. The other thing he and I were talking about, and I was basically complaining like a baby in some ways, but it seems harder and harder to get clients. Speaking totally frankly.
It is.
It seems as though it has just simply gotten harder.
Right.
It's not to say we're losing. It's not to say we're not going to keep going. But man, it sure has seemed to have gotten a lot more challenging recently.
Yeah.
The last
It has. I mean, I think a lot of it for us was your own network. And that's where we saw probably 90% of our clients. So you're not wrong. It's gaining those net new, building additional relationships, rapport. So I think strategy wise, even at Scoop Soldiers, when we talk about doing these events, finding people that you can network with, because they're going to be speaking on your behalf too, and they have their own network. So you multiply in that capacity. So there's a lot to it.
And then driving commercial leads like y'all were doing. Multifamily, you know, oh, I live in an apartment. Well, what apartment do you?
Exactly.
Like, oh,
exactly.
So, you know, so
yeah, that multifamily is something I think that is on our hot
we
list
have
for
got to do
development.
more. It's such
Absolutely.
a very little teeny weensy piece of our revenues.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 10, 15, 20% of our revenues.
Well,
it's literally millions of dollars of opportunity.
Right. And being in the heart of Atlanta, near the event where we were, that's all we saw was duplexes, condominiums. It was very different than the suburbs.
And and that's been something else for us to learn on these events and
right.
And
Recon.
On this tour is we continue to learn lessons as much as we're making notes and saying, okay, we're continuing to learn lessons. And we've got to get we still got a lot of work to do on the systems and the processes for those events. And I'm not convinced we'll do them forever or even for beyond 2025. Sure. We've got 20 more or so.
Yeah, 15 to 20 more for the latter half of the year.
We're going to finish those out, but
we'll finish strong.
I think they're expensive. That's all there is to it.
At the end of the day, yeah. And that's why we make notes. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways too, is if you plan or intend to do this year over year, or give your franchisees a guide of something, notate how that event went, what the result was, what the ROI was, just having a track record.
I keep going back right now to thinking again of the keynote I heard. I think his name was Barry Bonds. Was it Barry Bonds? The book's right up there. Anyways, he was a basketball player, an NBA basketball player, not the baseball player. I think there's a baseball player that has that. No, not that. So that's why I might have that name way butchered. So forgive me if I do. But he gave a keynote at Steve Biegelman's SMB conference, franchise conference, 2023. And the title of the keynote says it all. All a franchisor business is a training and development organization.
100%.
We have got to lean in instead of going and serving our franchisees through just doing these events that are really expensive and not giving us a good ROI in most cases. Let's start focusing on that training and development piece in all aspects. Right. And it's not to say we don't do that. We already do that. But again, we have so much more we can do. Right. So that's what I'm looking forward to with Kendra.
Absolutely.
And with you, and that was the whole purpose Kendra was onboarded, was for that reason.
Right.
Fran Dev is a piece of that. But I'm excited to see what y'all are going to do with that role.
Yeah. Well, and I think being servant hearted for our franchisees comes in a lot of different fashions. That can be boots on the ground, but also educating on business to business and how you build relationships, community, additional growth.
Yeah.
So it comes in all
and
forms
in some
and
ways,
fashions.
it's
And that can
also
evolve.
telling a franchisee what maybe they don't want to hear as a business owner.
Yeah, it's not
You've
always
got to
pretty.
get better at that.
It's not always pretty.
You've got to get better at that. But yeah. All right. Here's the strategy. This is what I want to strategize right now.
Okay.
Okay. So for everybody,
Where's the whiteboard?
this is the first time that I am talking to my COO. You may argue that this isn't the greatest leadership strategy, but it's going to be fun.
We're about to find out.
Okay, so here's what I think I want to do.
Okay.
I think we got, and I've talked to Josh about this. He's not feeling the greatest, so therefore
Lukewarm.
he's lukewarm on everything right now, just because he's not feeling the greatest. I don't blame him. If you hear the dogs mics that's on the mics, that's Astra and Nova right behind the Jeep here. It's part of the find your gold environment. You got to have dogs.
Amen.
Someday, I'm hoping as they get a little older and they're not still in their puppy phase, they'll just be walking around here. I know that makes Jeremy a little nervous, but okay, here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I was playing with my spreadsheets this weekend before last, not this weekend, but the last weekend. And it occurred to me with the way we're implementing P4P, and I was playing with my little spreadsheets and the costs to go into a new market.
Right.
I think we can do 10. Sometime between, look, but here's the thing, and this is a lesson learned, I think. Going into a market in June is like the worst time of the year to go into a market.
Right.
It's the slowest
your
time.
Competition is
Most expensive. Well, that too. And my biggest competition is lack of awareness, but that's a whole.
You bought a bus for that. I think we're covered.
No doubt, but we got to make that bus get more awareness. But and it still doesn't get enough awareness. Who are we kidding? Digital gets more awareness than that bus will ever get. You could argue, especially for the cost, but. Can't believe I just said that because I want to argue it. I want to argue in favor of the bus, not against the bus. I want to argue in favor of the bus. What was I just saying? No. Going into a market in June, July isn't great. We've historically gone into markets whenever we have the resources and the time, and so that 2 years ago we hit 2 markets simultaneously in June. June 1st, we launched Salt Lake City and Seattle simultaneously. The month before that, we did.
Was it DC?
Right before that? No, DC was February, so a few months before that. Why is it eluding me?
Spokane, SLC.
No.
Where'd you go before? Is it a market we sold?
I'm missing one. It's Kansas City. It was a market we sold.
It's a market we sold. It's not under service company anymore.
Yeah. It was Kansas City. Was the other one. We did Kansas City. And so, that got awarded to a franchisee.
Right.
Salt Lake City is still corporate. Seattle is still corporate owned. Spokane is still corporate owned. Northern Virginia, DC is corporate owned. Most recently, we made an acquisition in Newport News, Virginia. Right. Before I knew, I'd never heard of Newport News in my whole life until then.
Any of us had.
But right by Newport. Newport News is right by Norfolk, Virginia.
Right.
So we went there, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking in quarter 4, we can go into 10 markets.
In a 3-month time period. Yeah.
Roughly 12 weeks.
Listen,
10 markets.
The fact that we're having this conversation in April is a lot of growth on your part. Because let's be honest, sir. Hey, 30
you got a good laugh out of Vin with that.
30 days from now, we're going to
No, we're gonna plan this out. We're gonna plan this out. By the way, we'll talk about Spokane in a minute. Remind me I want to hear your real feelings about why we went to Spokane. I want to hear it from you. That'll be fun.
I'm just kidding, pub.
In a second. But before that, 10 markets.
Yeah.
Okay. So what questions, thoughts do you have? Yeah, I knew you'd take it. I was wondering, for a second, because sometimes you look at me, especially when I'm like, let's go to a market in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You kind of look at me with a little like with your head a little turned,
A little fast.
like I'm a little nuts.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most entrepreneurs are nuts. Like that comes with the territory, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, actually, there's a little truth to that.
You have to be a little bit insane. A little bit.
I would say insane. You have to be a little bit of a gambler. Is a better way I'd put it. You have to be willing to take risk. And it's all about risk. And you also have to be willing to fail. And these are the cliche things that everybody knows. So, but you do have, as we were talking about a second ago, you definitely have to be okay with failing, because it is absolutely going to happen every single day, in one way or another. So these 10 markets, first off, we've never left a market. And this I was thinking of, I was like, I can't do these 10 markets and even consider having to pull out. So I don't want to overdo it. Like I'd rather go to 7, because we're not pulling out of a market. Like that's just absurd. So 10 markets. What's top of your mind in terms of the challenge in that?
I think for everybody, first and foremost, making sure that you're registered in that state to be able to employ. So any of the states that we're not already in.
No.
You're
going through the checklist.
Oh yeah, that's my job.
I know.
Remember this month? Like you literally hired me for this.
That's true.
So as we run down my checklist.
By the way, full credit to Crystal, because she'll be the one doing that. And I haven't told Crystal that she was on vacation last week. But
so maybe hit it with next
tomorrow.
week.
No, Wednesday.
That's today.
Oh yeah, that's today. Yeah. I meet with her today. And it's not in my notes actually with her. So it may wait. It may wait.
Wait till next.
Jeremy, shoot me an email to remind Crystal of 10 markets. No, she'd rather know.
Send it for tomorrow.
She'd rather know sooner rather than later, just like you just said. And she's got her work cut out for her between now and then to help it. But you're right. Good point.
Hiring. Making sure that we're staffed.
We can anticipate, I'm going to guesstimate right now because I don't actually know. I know kind of what 10 cities I want, but I'm going to guesstimate that's like 6 to 8 states.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the next thing?
So vehicles, making sure that we get vehicles there.
Vehicles. How many vehicles do we need for 10 markets?
10.
Yes.
We start with one.
I don't know why you
guess how many.
I was asking that question to the audience.
Guess how many people. Once we get to 150, that's where you bring a second truck in.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that new culture thing. We've gotten too easy a little bit with
4 homes an hour, 5 homes an hour. That's what we're looking for.
That's where we need to go for. Next,
depending
when we go to Philly, it probably won't be 4 homes an hour starting out.
Sure. Well, I think we understand that.
But no, I think Philly is in the top 10. Okay. I think we need to.
Well, we developed
I was looking at the map.
30 potential territories at the end of last year.
We did. And I was looking at that map.
Yeah.
With Eric. Eric Ganaway came over Monday.
Maps
came
are my
over.
favorite thing.
And maps are my favorite thing. And so we started talking about this, and I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't actually looked at the map.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it a lot. Talked to Josh a little bit about it, but I haven't actually looked at the map. And so I pulled out the map, pulled it up on the TV there. And we started looking at it, and 10 markets is, like you said, it's a third of the markets we have pegged to get into.
Yes.
And it basically does really fill in any area of the United States map that we're not in yet. It fills all that out. We could fill all that out. The Northeast, Philadelphia, what's north? Boston. Okay. Philadelphia, Boston. I want to stay out of Long Island. I don't want to go to New York. It's on our map, but I don't want to go there just yet.
Yeah.
I do think I want to go. I do think I want to go to the suburbs, and this is not on our map, but I want to look at this one. I want to look at the suburbs of Connecticut. Okay. Sorry. Suburbs in Connecticut, suburbs of New York City in Connecticut. They're more. Gotcha. They're out there, and I think they're more rural than we're going to want, but I want to look at that.
Okay.
So anyways, Northeast. And then we'll have the Midwest. We got Indianapolis to hit. We've got Louisville to hit. We've got Chicago to hit.
Right.
And again, we're not going into all of Chicago. We probably won't go into all of Philly either.
Sure.
Those markets are too big.
Share the strategy with us. What do we look for when we look for a new market?
So we look for how many household incomes are above 100,000 or more. How many inside of what we call a territory are how many actual households have that, like the actual number. We look for 4,000, 5,000, 8,000. You got to have some nuance in that because Northwest Arkansas is different than Seattle, Washington. In terms of, 100,000 is very different in those two places. And so you still have to have some nuance in it. But you look at that, you look at population density. Our territories are between 350,000 and 600,000, kind of looking at shrinking that range, but because it's kind of gotten a little squirrely.
Sure.
It got squirrely because of places like Florida, Tampa, where there's a lot of condos. And the franchisee was like, look, there's a lot of condos here. I mean, and then a lot of people that are only here half the year.
Right.
And so that had to kind of be taken into consideration. So there's different nuances, but we look for demographics and household income. How many actual households, rooftops, have 100,000 plus household incomes, and which is a lot less than it used to be. But then also general heavy population, suburban population.
Density.
For us, suburban population. So density up to a point. Manhattan isn't really going to be our area at this moment because we don't do much any commercial as a comparison to our systems.
Yeah, we'll grow that strategy and then take that by step.
But yeah, we'll on the Northwest, we'll hit up Boise, which is pretty much in my top.
Yeah,
that's in my top 3 because I just think it's a hot market. Not for pet waste in general, not necessarily for pet waste, but it's a hot market in terms of the housing market and people moving and moving out of California. Boise is a hot place. And also we're already in Idaho.
Right.
Thanks to Spokane.
Right. So we're registered then.
Exactly. We're ready to go there. That makes it easier. Reno's another one.
Yeah, Reno.
Which we were registered years ago in because we employed people in Las Vegas, but that's now franchisees.
Yep.
So we have to get re-registered in Nevada to do Reno.
Hopefully we can skip some of the red tape since we've been there before.
Yeah, probably not because it'll actually be registration probably through a different company because of the way we had our employment structured back then versus now.
Gotcha.
So
yep, that makes sense.
What are some other items? So trucks, we'll buy 10 trucks. That's easy enough.
Yeah.
We got to get the financing and I've
marketing strategy. That's another aspect of it. Digital, boots on the ground, relational, all of those pieces for 10 markets.
Yeah. We need to build more of an infrastructure for hiring. And I say an infrastructure. We've done this before. At one point, we had 65 technicians that were employed, and we had a huge apparatus of constantly hiring all over the country. We basically have to build that for 10. But just 10 trucks, 10 people, 10 different markets, which is the challenge. We definitely need to onboard at least one more parascooper.
Exactly.
In some fashion.
We have 2 right now, but you're not wrong.
But
we need 3.
In my eyes, Edwin and Tyler, these 10 markets, not to say that they literally will not be used for these 10 markets, but Edwin and Tyler their jobs are busy with the tour and their jobs are busy with what we already have them doing other than the tour. Again, I'm not saying they won't be doing it, but we need to factor in that they're pretty well busy. But how many more hires do we need to make to support the 10? We definitely need to have somebody solely full-time focused at service company. Because we will then have 16 markets at service company. We have 6 now. Yeah, 6 now. We'll have 16 once we hit these 10. So we'll need one person solely focused on those 16 to 20 employees. And then and that person in my eyes is the primary parascooper for the service company.
Sure.
And they need a support person, which I think right now is our Salt Lake City person. If we can get them to be in agreement with travel.
I don't disagree. I think that
it's most senior.
The person we have in mind would be open-minded to this for sure.
So I think that's what that somewhat looks like there. And I don't think we need much more beyond that support. An additional parascooper and basically a general manager or operations manager solely for Scoop Soldier Service Company.
And then additional command center support, and we'll be good to go.
Do you need that immediately? We need that more
with
so.
Growth for all things.
More so with growth for all things.
Correct.
Again, remember, we're never not hiring.
Oh, for sure.
For our SAM team members, essentially.
Consistent interviews.
Because we're basically adding, at least we need to get back to a point. We honestly haven't been at the amount of growth we were happy with for a couple of years. We're still growing. But we're not growing at the pace we want to be growing. Right. If we can get to the pace we want to be growing, we're adding so many new clients. We need a new SAM team member
consistently
basically.
every few months.
Every few months.
Right.
And so that's where we want to get. Same with the way trucks work. And it worked in the past and are going to work when we hit these 10 markets. Because here's the math on these 10 markets. I don't know exactly the marketing plan, by the way. That's the piece that I haven't. I know we have the resources. I just have to.
Well, we'll pull demographics. We'll look at all the logistics.
We'll obviously set up SEO and all that in these markets. But it may end up being a detriment. That's where an argument comes in to say, why don't we go into 5 and spend the same amount of money on marketing in those 5? Why 10? But here's my answer to why 10. If we can come up with a plan that, here's the thing. I believe we can continue, and we're going to have to work at it. But by the way, mostly through digital. I'm not looking for a lot of boots on the ground. Signs, and that's mostly just to piss off the local competitors. Signs.
Been there, done that a few times.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that one in a minute. Signs. But other than that, almost exclusively digital.
Right.
Meta, Google, pretty much just like my friends are using across the industry, as if that's a secret.
It's not
Meta
a secret. Everybody's putting money into it.
But
you have to.
We go into Meta and Google, we bring awareness. I think we can get 100 clients. If we can't get if it takes us a year to get 100 clients, okay? If it takes us a year to get 100 clients, not to get into too much of the microeconomics, but if it takes us a year to get 100 clients, in a year we have 1,000 clients.
Right.
You get this scale because we're hitting 10. That's my argument for not doing 5. Why not do 20? In a year, if it takes us a whole year to get 100 clients in each market,
well,
we have 2,000 clients. That's a $2.5 million business.
Right.
So there's scale in it in a way that I'm seeing more clearly. And with P for P, see, think about how we did Spokane. We did Spokane the old school way. We can't do it this way, where we pay hourly from day one.
Right.
It eats us. It drains our resources in the most unproductive way because you have to hire somebody and guarantee them so many hours. That's what we've historically done, and it's expensive. Just pay per house like we did in DC. Pay a high amount per house, up to 25 houses or up to 50 houses. Pay 60% or 50% or more, whatever you need to, depending on the market, per scoop to the technician. And maybe they start out only working an hour a week. Find the right people. There are people out there that are okay with that.
Right. Well, and I think that that's part of it too, is you have to be comfortable with shifting if you need to. Don't just get set on, it's an hourly rate. This is the person that, the right person will fall into the right place and they'll help you scale and grow the business and you'll have their buy-in. And those are the people.
I'm confident with, and this is a strong suit of Brian Jones. He hires people. Have you had to help him hire anybody?
I've conducted 2 interviews while he was on PTO, and he was on PTO.
So again, you got to be really good at hiring people. You got to be really good at onboarding, but that's something he's good at.
Right.
Let's lean into that and scale it.
Absolutely.
So 10 trucks, 10 markets. This time next year, we'll have a couple hundred. Even if those markets are lagging, like the last set of markets we went into, those markets took a while to get to 120 clients.
Yeah.
But I also think we learned something through it.
Sure.
And we'll be able to make tweaks, and I think we can, by the way, get to 100 clients. We do 10 markets, a percentage of those markets, because we know this. A lot of people in the industry don't realize this. Everybody acts as if every market, every zip code is the same. Every market, every zip code is very different.
Absolutely.
And so what we'll see is, I bet you we'll see some markets we hit surprise us, and we get to 100 clients in 3 months, which is kind of like that sweet spot. Like if you can do that.
Absolutely.
If you can do that.
If you can replicate it,
you can
you're
just
golden.
replicate that. You're like
Maybe going to 20 markets.
Exactly.
We could guarantee those results every time. Copy.
So we'll have some markets do that, and then we'll have other markets that will be really slow, that are like 40 clients at month 12, and we're like, why? But we're not leaving it.
Right.
Because Scoop Soldiers doesn't retreat.
No, we're soldiers. It's the mission.
Absolutely.
We are committed to the mission.
We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. So speaking of not going anywhere, Spokane.
Yes.
This one was a new lesson. Like, this actually helped affirm some theories that we already have.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about that in just a second. But tell me about October, September from your perspective. October 1st was your first day officially as COO. Before that, you were chief of staff. You and Cynthia were running both companies for the last year and a half, 2 years or beyond even. It was you and Cynthia at Scoop Soldiers and Chorbie running them both. We realized we needed individual focus.
Sure.
October 1st, you become COO. And probably within a day or two, or so. Tell me about the learning how quickly we were going to get to Spokane and why.
So this was brought to me, as you mentioned, October 1st. By November 11th, Veterans Day, we were making our mark. We were in Spokane.
Planting our flag in Spokane.
Absolutely. And the reasoning that I've come to understand is a few things.
Okay.
We hosted a
Start with
conference.
the least mature first.
The least mature. Oh, where do I start? I think I have probably 20 things in mind. But the way that this came unfolded to me is when we were at our conference, we had some attire and some agendas that maybe played off.
We had named our conference.
Scoop Swoop.
Yes.
Yeah, the Scoop Swoop conference.
2023.
And pissed off a competitor with this information. They didn't like.
Well, this competitor seems to have thought that we used their namesake for our conference in Scoop Swoop 2023.
I think they give us too much credit.
Well, first off, they give themselves too much credit. Well, yeah, that's true.
They're giving us too much credit.
Here's how I know that name came up. That name came up from Jen Spencer, who I later fired, and then she started a competing poop scooping business. That's another fun one.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's not this one.
Different
But Jen Spencer was tasked with, in her 3-month role as COO, 2-month role, whatever it was tasked with planning this conference. And yeah, she came up with this name, and we all thought, oh, that's catchy.
That's cute.
So simultaneously, here's what I remember on that to touch on, and then I'll let you get back to it. At the same time we're planning this conference, from approximately May of 2023 to when it happened in September of 2023, we named this conference, we're planning this conference. Well, what I come to understand now is at the same time that's happening, a business, a pooper scooper business in Spokane is getting sued for trademark infringement, for Pooper Troopers trademark infringement, that is a business in Seattle.
Gotcha.
And I see this come through national news. This made national news. Kind of pissed me off. I've never made national news for being a pooper scooper. Anyway, they're getting sued for this. And then after our conference, months later, I learned that they've switched their name to what? Because my dyslexia really twists these things up. So our conference was named one thing. Their name is the same words, but it's flipped. And it messes me up. Okay. So they changed their name. And I thought, cool. They changed their name. Okay. Well, then they send us these dadgum trademark infringement as if we are using their name. Now, I give them credit for one thing. They actually had one reason to send us that. You know that it was on, I don't know if you know this part, petwastemillionaire.com.
Oh.
It was Ben's fault.
It was Ben's
Pet Waste Million.
Poor Ben.
It's always my fault. I'm kidding. I tease Ben. It's always Ben's fault, but it's also really always mine. No, we had Riley Potoshnik bid the website for petwastemillionaire.com.
Okay.
I'll rebuild it. Well, the way I understand it happened, Riley knew the name Scoop, Swoop, Swoop, Scoop, whatever, of our conference. He knew, and that was one of the things we put as a feature, because it's not like I have an enormous amount of public speaking. So we had that on there as featured in or whatever. And so we put that on there. Well, I guess Riley or Ben, somebody gets this from just what we thought was maybe a stock, I guess he thought was a stock photo.
Yeah.
Well, it ends up being their logo. Ends up on Pet Waste Millionaire's website.
Yeah.
And as featured in. Now, if I was them, I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I also would have sent like a message, like I wouldn't have paid legal fees to send like me these formal documents. I wouldn't have been
It was done to them.
Sure.
Right? So, I mean.
Well, yeah, I know exactly what they're doing. They think that there's like something to be done and some money to be made with enforcing trademarks, when all it just cost us $20,000 to enforce our trademark.
Agreed.
It is not a good thing to have to deal with your trademark.
The money pit.
In fact, as an entrepreneur, I would avoid trademarks as much as possible until I'm independently wealthy, because the cost to enforce trademarks, nobody can afford.
It's obscene.
We can't hardly afford it.
Right.
We just had to enforce it, and we'll always enforce it. We have to. It's our obligation as a franchisor.
Protect our brand.
Exactly.
Right.
But if I have to do that as a franchisor, most independent operators do not necessarily need that. But you're right. They're sensitive to it because they had to change their name. By the way, we actually have something in relation to them. We had to become Scoop Soldiers because of that same trademark, Pooper Troopers up in Seattle, they wouldn't let us name our company the same name as theirs, those jerks. And I'm half
I don't imagine why.
I'm half kidding. I knew nothing about trademarks when I started this business.
Well, they probably knew that there would be success with this, right? They don't
they did
around their
but they've just had to start enforcing it. But I guarantee you they have to question how much it costs them to enforce it. So anyway, circling back, they send us this cease and desist, partially because of this conference, which is nonsense.
Right.
And then also legitimately because we kind of overlooked that their logo was on Fat Boys Million. Okay, so next thing you know, Josh and EJ are like, hey, we're going to Spokane in 5 weeks.
Yeah, 4.5 weeks, I think.
Is what the notice you got?
Yeah. But we got a hire out there, we got a truck out there, we got everything all set in place. We're set to hire, good to go, ready to rock.
So why do you think, Josh and I, was it strategic? Like, were we thinking for 6 months, like we need to go to a new market? And you know what? Let's go to a market that is hard to get to from Dallas. Let's pick a market that's way far away.
Sure. That was it.
Like, was that it? Or what?
No,
what
y'all are petty.
It was petty.
Y'all were petty.
Okay,
It's fine. It's fine.
It was a little petty.
To your point,
It was a little petty.
we've seen the growth in that market in a fast time frame. You talked about 3 months, if we could coin that. Like,
I'll tell you this, and I don't know if this is like to my detriment, if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but Spokane and that little bitty what I call a single unit territory. It's only one territory for us. Seattle, by example, could be 5. Or even 6 if you include SeaTac, Tacoma. But Spokane's this little market. It's the fastest market I have gone into.
Right.
Now, I think Josh went into some markets before I was in charge that probably beat it out.
This will be your claim.
So that's why I say I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but Spokane, and I say it's funny you say it's mine. Funny thing is I've never been there.
No.
I've never been there.
We had planned for you.
Josh went and launched it. Yeah. So he would want to take some credit for this.
Honestly, he went to the first event the week before.
And he did, you know what it is? It must have been those signs he did. I bet you it was the placement of those signs. That must have been the success.
Can you tell me where those ended up?
I'm a little embarrassed by that. For the record, I'm embarrassed by that. I'll tell the story because it's all like now it's still funny.
Like we need to share.
Like it was a little embarrassing.
Like we need to share with the class.
I was in Las Vegas attending the Eagles concert at the Sphere for my 40th birthday with my wife. They're launching one of my favorite places. I'd get tired of it if I had to go there too much though. So it's not like, but yes, as far as my favorite place to travel to. So I'm sitting on my balcony in Las Vegas and I'm watching this stuff and they're taking pictures of this competitor. At their throwing balls in their backyard. This is the most immature, petty, childish, yet hilariously satisfying. It was.
And this is when I knew I work with children.
Yeah, well,
pretty much.
But here's the thing. The reason, and Josh is way worse than me. You have to admit, he's way worse than me.
Yes.
The whole reason that I became an entrepreneur and wanted to have freedom in my life that was only in this world in at the time, 2000, 2020, 2005, 2025. The only way you can have any freedom in this world in 2025 is to have some bit of financial freedom. Sure. And I wanted that. But you know what I also wanted? I wanted to have fun.
Right.
I didn't want to go, the movies, Office Space. Is it Office Space? No, that's the show. What's the movie? Office Space. The movie Office Space is the great example of this.
They're an HR night.
Cubicleville. That another one is The Incredibles. Is it really good? Is it an allegory? I'm not good at grammar.
I don't know. You got me on that one.
Jeremy, is The Incredibles, the movie. That's an allegory in a lot of ways of like mediocrity, right? Am I saying that right? Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Anyways, those movies always spoke to me in that way. And I want to have fun is my point. I don't want to be all like buttoned up. And again, it isn't fun. Like truly, I have nothing against. Right. Okay. I have nothing against most any competitor.
I have to have the aspect.
But you have to have healthy competition. And so I've actually joked. At this point, I don't want to meet those owners because then I'd like them. And and at that point, I wouldn't have the friction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think iron sharpens iron and a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that a little bit of competition, even if it is a little petty, even if it gets a little petty at times, a little bit of competition can be both fun, make life worth it. It keeps things going, keeps things alive. So anyway, I'm not terribly proud of it, but at the same time, I'll justify it. And I wasn't there, for the record.
Do this to everybody.
No. Like I said, I was very embarrassed by that one. But here is actually going back to the real lesson learned. A rising tide lifts all ships.
It does.
Kendra keeps calling it a Burger King and McDonald's on every corner. The comparison. In this business, like other business, you don't look for the markets that have the least competition.
Right.
The markets with the least competition is probably going to be the hardest for you to get a footing in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look for markets that have a really, really deep, established footing.
Well, I mean, we talk about it even with the tour. When we emerged on it, it's awareness of the industry and that the service is even a thing, right?
Because we're not competing. Nobody in this industry is really directly competing. I know because I hear the trolls on the internet. I know that Scoop Soldiers loses business to competitors. I know that.
Right.
I hate that. I'm competitive. And however competitive I am and however much I hate it, Josh hates it even more. He was just yelling at me last night about it. But not specifically competitors taking our clients, but he was just yelling at me about one thing or another, not good enough. But at the end of the day, where the clients are really coming from is pet owners that have never used this service.
Right.
It is a small percentage of business being taken in because, of course, we're one of the larger ones. Of course, we lose more clients to that.
Sure.
For one reason or other. It could be things we can barely control, like mow days schedules.
Absolutely.
Or when the pool guy comes versus when the housekeeper. I mean, it can have all sorts of different reasons. And then other times it is because we got to be better at routing and we can't have delays and da-da-da-da-da. I'm not going to argue that sometimes we lose customers because of that. It sucks. We got to make sure that we're better at that every single day.
Absolutely.
But it also rarely happens on a percentage standpoint, like 1% or less.
Right.
When you really look at the overall size of our business. So no, I don't think we're competing against our competitors directly.
Mm-hmm.
The more awareness, the better.
Absolutely.
I do believe that. I also will hypothesize that there's been more people entering this industry the last 3, 4, 5 years, let alone the last 12 months, thanks to the groups, which are great, by the way. But thanks to those groups, we've got more and more people entering the industry. We need a wave of marketing dollars and a wave of awareness of dog owners to catch up to the wave of business owners that have come into this industry. That is needed a little bit. It has gotten a little bit less
off kilter.
It's gotten a little bit more off kilter. But again, I think in the long run, this industry, everybody's going to win that knows how to run their business. The people that are steady and consistent in what they do, everybody can win in this business. 65 million dog owners.
Absolutely.
I don't believe that there's 1 million that are using this service. I don't believe that there's more than 10 million or 20 million that know that the service exists.
Mm-hmm. So
the industry can only go up. So that's why we're going to hit those 10 markets.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. Look, the one area we know we can grow, we're going to bring on franchise partners. Absolutely.
Sure.
But what we have 100% control over, and as long as we have the resources to do it, is to do what we've always done, which is grow corporately.
Right.
We franchised because we had gotten to so many dadgum trucks. I don't think a week would go by that one wasn't getting wrecked. Franchising did a lot of beautiful things, helped get a lot of other people into our business as partners and get them into their own businesses. That's a beautiful thing in entrepreneurship, and that's what I love about franchising. Those people, for the most part, a lot of our franchisees may never have been in business otherwise.
I don't disagree.
Not all of them, but some of them. And so whether it does that, but it also helps with your liability in this sort of a business. Mm-hmm. It helps spread that out a little bit more. And that is necessary when you're doing $120,000 to $200,000 a year per truck and you have all these trucks running around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, just like we talked about events too, with everybody's eye on it, you get all the best practices as well. Everybody has different backgrounds in franchising. So we talk about regularly, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you bring in people who know something or have a background in something, can share that with the network, and that only helps us evolve.
The brain trust,
Absolutely.
the brain power, and the overall, I'm thinking of the board from Star Trek. Speaking of Star Trek, we are the collective brain power, the collective brain power of your franchisees and the ownership you have in that, the talent you get through that. There are so many benefits to being a part of a franchise. There's so many benefits to franchising. There's so many benefits to buying into a franchise. It's different benefits for different needs and different people. So I'm looking forward to continuing it. 6 months.
Yes.
6 months in, we got a long way to go. We got a lot more to do.
Oh yeah.
Right?
The job is never done.
No.
Never done. Always proud, never satisfied.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good tee up to the next podcast I'll be hosting, which will be with Cynthia Hernandez. That's her one of her famous sayings: "Always proud, never satisfied." Yes. I personally deal too much with pride, so I don't love that saying personally. Pride comes before the fall, and
we're not falling.
But when I think of pride, like, sorry, as a funny story real quick, John Cahill, Josh's dad, we were establishing Scoop Soldiers franchising and needing to come up with these values.
Oh, yes.
And Josh's dad, he's old school kind of, and he was like, well, pride and service. And Josh, because he kind of thinks the way I do in this, he's like, yeah, I think EJ and I are proud enough. I don't think we need to like advertise that.
Yeah,
we deal enough with pride and all the things. And so, but luckily we're self-aware to it. So we don't, but Cynthia, she's got a good saying, and it is a good saying. Always proud, never satisfied. And I think what that really means is more so pride in your team.
Right.
In the other people. So making it about others is where pride can be a good thing.
Absolutely.
All right, Michayla. So look, wrapping up here, I want our viewers, if you're watching this and you have comments on what 10 markets we should go in, comment below. If you've got questions, if you want to have a conversation with me about franchising or anything, pet waste removal or finding your gold or entrepreneurship, the mission of this podcast, the mission of this channel is to inspire entrepreneurship through my story and stories like Michayla's and other people's stories. So be sure to comment below. Appreciate you watching. Make it a great day.